Feast TV is brought to you with the support from Missouri Wines, Caldy's Coffee, Old Time Produce, and the Raphael Hotel.
In this episode, we are exploring great grains. I'm Cat Neville, and this is Feast TV. Wheat, rice, farro, all of these grains we kind of take for granted. They pop up in pasta and breads, but there's a bigger story, and we're going to be exploring it in this episode of Feast TV. In fact, our first stop is at Hodgson Mill. They were founded in Missouri, and now they're operating in Illinois, and they are focused on organic and stone ground grains. Check it out. Today, we're in Effingham, Illinois to meet the team behind Hodgson Mill. It is known for its stone ground grains. Let's head inside and take a look.
Stone milling is it's not a new art, it's an old art. And the biggest thing with stone grinding is that you don't heat up the product as much. You don't activate the enzymes that's in the wheat or the corns or anything. You keep the temperature really low. The biggest difference in stone milling is that if you're in a conventional mill, you process everything out. You take out the bran, you take out the germ, you take out 3 different types of flours. We have a lot of certifications here. The reason we have them is, we want to make sure the consumer understands that, we're very conscious of quality. We're conscious of the processes. We're making sure the testing's being done.
The truck will pull up, and then before you even bring the product in, what are you testing for?
As the trucks pull up, we go out, we grab a sample of corn, rye, wheat, whatever the particular item is. We bring it in here to the lab, and then we'll test for the various toxins and or moisture content. We have a variety of tests that we run on each different product. If it meets those requirements, then we'll let it come into our facility. If there's any kind of bugs or infestation, then we send it away. We don't want that here.
So how many suppliers do you have?
A lot. We buy directly from farmers, or we buy through grain suppliers. Some of them we may just get a truckload a year, some of them we get hundreds of truckloads a year.
And so what is the volume that you are processing every week, every month, every year?
Annually, it's around 30 million pounds. And we're looking at different opportunities that could even upwards of double that.
That's incredible.
It's a lot of fun.
It sounds like it. So you process corn and wheat and rye.
Oats, sorghum, teff. There's a slew of different grains that we have.
Yeah, I think that's what's really interesting is that people automatically think of the big ones, right?
Yeah.
The wheat and the corn, but really there's so much.
It's really quite fascinating as you learn the process and who uses what and for what. And the irony is that since I've been working here the last year, I come to work for a food company and I've lost over 40 pounds.
Because you're eating quality
I'm eating
food.
healthy food.
The big vision of this company is provide healthy products for healthy people, or help people to get healthy. That's the biggest issue right now. There's so many variables. They can't have certain items or ingredients or this or that. So we try to at least provide them a base. I would hope that if they picked up any of our products, that they felt that this was something that was very healthy and had a good flavor to it. And if they had a problem, they could call. And they actually get a body on the other end to talk to or help them get, that way.
So what's exciting to me about this is that you're not just bringing in and then bagging grains. You're actively involved in the conversation about whole grains and healthy eating, and then developing products that people can make at home.
We're continually trying to adjust our product to meet the needs of consumers.
Well, I love it. It's a 19th century company that's on the cutting edge.
We're trying to be.
Yeah. Can we go for a tour?
Oh no, I'm sorry, that's not allowed. So this is the highly technical part of our plant. This computer bank here all runs these two very large pasta extruders. This first one tells us what the ingredients are and what's in the silos and how much. The second one tells us where it is in the process of mixing, and then the third one tells us where it is in the process of drying.
Wow. Let's go take a look.
Okay.
See how the pasta's made.
So this is part of the veggie rotini that we're running now.
So this is fresh out of the machine.
It's also edible too. This is basically a big bank of ovens here. So it's cooking the pasta during this process. And from there, it feeds down into here.
Oh, look at that.
Now we've got the spinach rotini coming out here. So the next part of the process is putting it in the bag. The way this works is it's feeding the product from up above. It's taking a roll of this film and then sealing it off when the product reaches the appropriate weight.
I love it. The next time I buy a package of your pasta at the store, I'm going to know exactly where it's made. That is so fun.
You can see we've got the bags going over into our boxing machine. And then once this pallet is full, this whole tray moves over there where it'll wrap it with shrink wrap, and the fork truck driver can come grab it off the end of the line.
That's amazing. So when another company wants to use your services, will they just call you up and you develop the recipe for them?
Or they may have a recipe and come to us to manufacture it. And if we can, we will.
That's great.
We're constantly contacting other companies to see if, we can maybe produce something for them as well.
That's an interesting aspect to the industry that I think a lot of folks aren't really aware of. Like, they think that you obviously make your own brand, but the fact that you are developing products for other companies,
Yeah.
that's really fascinating. So it's late September and it's kind of unseasonably warm, would you say, and dry?
It is for this time of year.
Is it kind of ideal harvest weather, or?
Any weather is good harvest weather. This is the time of year when we reap the benefits.
And a lot of folks might not realize that rice is grown here in Missouri, and we're in South Missouri. And what varieties of rice are you growing?
This year we have medium grain that's used in cereal production. We have jasmine, which is a long grain, sticky, aromatic, and we have just regular long grain, like you'd eat in a Chinese buffet.
What's your favorite?
I like the jasmine.
I do too.
We have the ability to be vertically integrated. We're the farmer, we're the producer, we're the miller, we're the packager, we're the marketer. So we take something from seed and see it all the way to the consumer, to the plate, to the table.
Which is unusual.
It is unusual. There's a reason why not many people are doing it. It's pretty hard to do.
It's not just a locally distributed product. I mean, you're distributing all over the place. Tell me what your distribution model is.
Anybody that has any money that can pay us, we sell it to them. No, we sell rice pretty much coast to coast. It started out as a project, and just over a period of 17 years now, almost 18 years, I went from a farmer to a rice miller to a marketer to...
Now you're the rice guy?
Now I'm the rice guy. I'm the Missouri rice guy. So.
Can we take a look at it?
Sure. This is rice.
Oh, cool.
It's just tall grass. If grass headed out, it would look similar to this.
So the milling process, this outer hull is taken off.
Yep.
And then what is left is brown rice.
If you remove the hull, you've got brown rice. If we make white rice, then the brown rice gets polished. by friction to remove that bran layer or the brown layer off the rice.
What do you do with that?
Animal feed.
Okay.
Yeah. When we process rice, we don't throw anything away. Everything has its purpose. Because if you take how much a bushel of rice costs that a farmer receives, each thing that you remove off of that, each step it goes through, has a purpose and a price.
Sure.
Or a value.
A value, sure.
Yeah, to add up to be how much a bushel costs.
Can we go to the mill?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Let's go.
Yep. This is our receiving area. This is where we receive the rough rice, the paddy rice, and the rice comes in these trucks. They get weighed, and we sample the rice to make sure it's the correct quality, and it goes into these tanks. So we have certain tanks for jasmine, we have certain tanks for medium grain, we have certain tanks for long grain. So we're putting the rice in the correct tank, and then whenever we get ready to process it, then we move it from the tank over to the mill.
We've seen the fields, we're seeing the rice being dumped, and now we're gonna go inside and see how it's milled. Let's go.
Okay, so here we've got brown rice, but there's still a lot of imperfections. I mean, even though that looks really pretty, if you get to really picking those kernels out and looking at them, there's some kernels that are there that you wouldn't want to put in the bag.
Okay.
So we have to go through some more processes to get it looking the way it needs to look. You can see how it goes from brown to white to whiter to very bright white.
Absolutely. That's cool.
So we got the rice white, but it's not done. We've still got a lot of things we've got to do to this rice to get it ready to go into the bag. We've got to go through another separation of cleaning and aspirating and sifting, and then we've got to start sizing all the different size pieces. And then we got to have a machine look at every kernel and make sure that it's the right color, the right size, the right shape, everything before it goes on to the next process. All of our rice is all processed and shipped within just a few days.
So you don't process it and then it sits and waits?
We don't mill rice just to be milling rice. We don't expect to have sales. We have sales or we don't process and ship. So all this rice that you see stacked up in here, it all has a home. It's all going someplace.
And there's a lot. There's
Yeah.
a lot of rice.
Yeah. This is our medium grain warehouse.
Where's all of this going?
Well, this is going to make Rice Krispies.
You're kidding.
Every bit of it.
So this is all gonna be in somebody's cereal bowl.
This is all going into somebody's cereal bowl, granola bar, anything that has puffed or crisp rice in it. This is where it starts.
This is the bag that I remember picking up years and years ago. And when I picked it up and I saw that it was a Missouri rice, I was like, really? This is grown in Missouri. And so now being able to come down here today and see where it's from and meet you and see the entire process, it's really cool. You don't really think about all of those steps along the way just to get to that one single grain of white rice.
Rice is very common. It's not expensive, it's very economical. A lot of people eat it every day, maybe even 2 or 3 times a day. They really don't appreciate where it comes from or how it got to their plate unless they come and see how that process works, because it's pretty elaborate.
So I'm standing here with Adam in the middle of a massive cornfield in southern Illinois, and this is where your whiskey and your vodka, all of your spirits, this is where they start.
That's exactly right. We are one of the few farm distilleries in the country, so we have the privilege of being able to actually put that seed in the ground in the springtime, foster that seed, let it grow, come around, harvest that seed in the fall, and then actually turn that into whiskey or vodka.
How many acres of corn do you have? And you also have wheat and rye.
Yeah, we have corn, wheat, barley, and rye. For the distillery specifically, it takes about 40 acres or so to support what we're currently producing.
Okay.
However, the farm right now is about 4,000 acres, a lot of which is cash rented, that type of thing. It's absolutely a 7-day-a-week operation for these guys.
And so what kind of corn do you use in your spirits? Is it like the field corn?
Yep, absolutely. Right now we are using field corn. So this is the conventional type of corn that we've always grown on our farm.
And what about the other ingredients? I'm assuming that you decided to plant those specifically for the distillery.
That's exactly right. The small grains they call flavoring grains, basically. So there's a little more nuanced approach to planting those. Specifically the barley and the rye, those are typically grains grown in the northern plains, not down here in southern Illinois. So we've spent about 4 years now looking for very specific varieties that perform well in the field and well in the distillery. Very happy with where we're at with that now.
So you grew up on this farm.
Yep. Grew up literally right down the road here, spent a lot of time at the farm.
Now, 8 generations that you've been here.
The farm was one of the first farms patented by the country in 1817. We were able to trace back the ownership of that farm. 1866 was the first year that our family had it. My great-great-great-great-grandpa on my mom's side of the family was deeded the original 200-acre farm. It's in my mom's family for 3 generations. In 1904, my mom's family then sold the farm to my dad's family. Then 80 years later, mom and dad end up getting married. So kind of a crazy story.
Wow.
Yes.
That is a crazy story.
Absolutely.
Craft distilling is a very modern way to add value to farms. By launching this distillery, you're going to be able to keep that family history going and also create a product that people are going to interact with in a personal way.
We take pride in being able to craft something that we're proud to put out in the market. So to see other people also take pride in that product is very, very rewarding. But to be able to kind of build upon our family's history and knowledge of farming and move that into another sector, it's been incredible.
Now I hear the combine coming our way.
That thing is coming down right now, chewing down 8 rows of corn, pulling that stalk through the header, popping the ear off, and rubs it together. And the corn kernels fall off and everything else goes out the back.
So cool.
Yep.
So Andy's gonna take me around in this combine. This thing is humongous. I mean, the tire is taller than I am. So I'm gonna climb up and we're just gonna see what happens. So how many hours a day will you run this combine?
It varies. Some days we get started early in the morning. We might run from 7:30, 8 o'clock until 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Oh my gosh. And how long is harvest season typically?
Usually we start shelling corn around Labor Day, and then our goal is to be done by Halloween. But a lot of times Mother Nature does not cooperate, so middle of November we're usually wrapping up.
It's really cool to see these fields of corn being turned into a product, having the kind of the family name attached to it.
Yes, it is.
So should we take a tour?
Absolutely, let's go. Right this way. This is where all the magic happens, back here.
So you started off with a tiny itty bitty still that's on display in the front room.
Yes, absolutely. I'm pretty sure the first drop that came off of that condenser, that's when I fell in love with making alcohol.
It's like magic.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. There's no replicating that moment. So from that point on, it was kind of like, hey, I could see myself doing this.
So we're standing in front of a grain cleaner.
Yes. So that combine out in the field, right, it's chewing through that entire corn stalk. So there might be a lot of different things that end up in the grain. This thing is basically a series of screens and fans that is going to remove anything but that grain in there.
So where did you find this thing?
Of all places, Craigslist.
You can find anything on Craigslist.
Anything. Best we can tell based on the serial numbers, it was made in the late 1940s. Amazingly enough, this thing is about 98, 99% original. So it's awesome that we got to, number one, preserve a really cool piece of history, and number two, we use that day to day. Every kernel of grain that we ever turn into booze gets run through this machine.
So you have a moonshine,
Right.
essentially, and then you have a vodka.
Absolutely.
And a bourbon.
Bourbon, you've got it. I've always been a bourbon drinker, so that was kind of my passion. We wanted to get some of those going, of course. We've been tinkering around with all different styles of whiskey now, though, so we've got some really cool stuff that's going. We just partnered with Eckert's for some really cool releases, yes. So we're using fresh peaches and fresh green apples for some flavored vodkas right now.
Well, and so Andy, who I was up in the combine with, his favorite is the peach vodka.
Oh, it is amazing. It's a lot of people's favorite, that's for sure. So what we did is we actually evaporated that alcohol off of our distiller's beer, shoved that alcohol vapor through those fresh cut up peaches, and that's how we picked up the flavors and the aromas and everything.
So it's not an extract. I mean, you have fresh peaches that you're infusing into your
Real
life.
fruit, yeah. We wanted an experience, something much more like biting into a juicy peach.
Awesome. Well, maybe we should do a little tasting.
Absolutely, let's go.
That's my favorite part.
So without further ado,
Wow, it smells like a peach.
yes.
So often when you have like fruit flavored vodkas, they have a medicinal kind of a quality to them. But this really tastes like you took a peach and you just kind of smashed it up with some really nice tasting, clean tasting vodka.
All right, down the line we go. Traditional bourbons are gonna have rye in it. This is actually a wheated bourbon, so there's no rye whatsoever.
Oh.
So it's gonna be a little bit on the sweeter end of the flavor profile.
Oh, wow. It has that classic bourbon sweetness to it, that vanilla character.
This next one, this was kind of, I don't want to say an accident, but definitely one of those happy mistakes.
Yeah.
So we were cleaning corn one day on the grain cleaner back there, and the main shaft broke on it, and we couldn't clean any more corn. We had an empty mash tun, so obviously we couldn't make any bourbon. Well, we had a bunch of clean wheat and empty tanks, so we're like, well, how about a wheat whiskey? So this is 100% soft red winter wheat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I think sometimes accidents happen for a reason. This is delicious.
Thank you very much. Needless to say, we've been making this mistake much more ever since we tasted those barrels.
So when I was thinking about what recipe I wanted to feature in this episode, it's easy to kind of go toward things that are more familiar, like making bread or pasta, but I wanted to cook with farro. This is a grain that I love. It is hearty and nutty, and it's the kind of grain that can very easily substitute if you're interested in cooking a vegetarian dish or something along those lines, and that's what we're gonna make today. We're actually going to do stuffed collard greens, and we're gonna stuff them with a slightly Mediterranean mix of farro and mushrooms and onions and feta. It's veggie, it's delicious, and we're gonna be pairing it with a wine from Balducci Vineyards. This is a Chamberson. It's gonna be a great pair. And I have 12 large leaves. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut these really woody stems off of the end of these collard greens. Now I'm gonna go ahead and chop up the rest of my ingredients so that when I'm ready to cook them on the stove, I have them right next to me. So first up, half of a yellow onion. I'm gonna chop up my parsley, mushrooms, and my garlic, and then we're gonna head over to the stove. So here I have 2 pans of boiling salted water. This is for my farro and this is for my collard greens. So the farro that I'm using is quick cook farro. So it's only gonna take about 10 minutes. You just wanna put it into your boiling water, and when it's nice and tender, if there's any remaining water in the pan, you're gonna drain it, but otherwise it's gonna absorb all that nice salted water. This is an ice bath, so it's very, very cold water. And all I'm going to do is use my tongs and I'm going to drop these collard greens into the hot water, and once they get vibrant and a little bit tender, I'm going to pull them out and I'm going to plunge them into the ice bath to stop the cooking, because you want to keep it this kind of resilient texture so that when you stuff the collard greens, they don't fall apart on you. My farro's ready, so I'm just going to drain this off and I'm going to put it in a nice big bowl. So in the same pot where I blanched those beautiful collard greens, I'm just putting in some nice fruity olive oil, and this could not be more simple. I'm going to saute my onions. If you are looking for this recipe, just go to feastmagazine.com. It's in the Feast TV section of the website, and all of the measurements and details are there. I'm going to dump in these mushrooms and some garlic, salt, and pepper and get everything nice and soft and caramelized. And then I'm going to put it in that same bowl that I just put the farro in. So, in our bowl, we have that farro and our onions and our mushrooms. Just mixing all that wonderful stuff up. That looks so good. I'm going to add in that parsley that I chopped earlier. It's going to give a beautiful herbal green note to it. This is feta. You can use pretty much any kind of feta that you want. This happens to be Bulgarian feta. I just like the tangy flavor. So now I'm going to pick my 6 favorite leaves, probably the biggest ones. Then the others I'm going to chop up and add to my farro mixture. Stir all this up, and then I'm going to squeeze in some fresh lemon juice. This is what makes it really, really fun. Right in the middle of your leaf, just put in your farro mixture. All you're gonna do is roll this up like a burrito. It's very, very easy. I'm just going to drizzle some veggie stock over top, salt and pepper, little olive oil, and I'm going to put it in a 375-degree oven for roughly 20 minutes. And here we have it, our finished dish. This is going to be paired with a Chambourcin from Balducci Vineyards. The Chambourcin has kind of a juicy character to it that's going to go really, really well with the earthy and beautifully aromatic and acidic elements that are in this collard green dish. It is delicious. It is hearty. Pairing it up with this juicy fruit-forward Chambourcin is going to be fantastic. So cheers to great grains. I'll see you next time.